Craig Ludwig joins us now. Dallas Stars analyst and insider and former NHL star. Craig, thanks for doing this. I know that it's holiday weekend. You're stuck in traffic in Dallas, which is not something I've been many times. It's not a fun thing. And unlike hockey, you can't just like knock people into the boards and get out of the way. So certainly appreciate.
I'll tell you what, though, guys. The good news is I'm downtown, almost near the parking garage, and it is a zoo down here already. So it's all good.
Yeah. Well, the game on Wednesday night was one of the craziest things I've ever seen watching a sporting event, especially given if you knew the history of last year. Whenever the Stars got a power play, it's like nobody told them, or they couldn't convert on it. Then to be down like they were going to the third period and then have this flurry of offense that started with 3 power play goals in a row. Like that was just an amazing array of offense from the Stars.
Yeah. You know what? I think when you look at some of the teams that have had these kind of runs and end up getting to where you want to go, you're going to look back and go, man, it was that in that round. And then all of a sudden this happened in this round. And, for the first round, it was about Mikko Rantanen. He had his little coming out party and things were going unbelievable for him. And they still are. He's still a great player, but things are going to get a little bit tighter for him as you move along, which you expect. But yeah, to have what happened there, I guess the puzzling piece for a lot of us was, why didn't the coach call a timeout? And, after you get a couple quick goals, you expect you'd want to just kind of slow things down a little bit. And that didn't happen. So good for Dallas. And they found a way. I mean, Dallas has got, I believe it's like 14 goals now.
Well, let me see. Yeah. Give me a second here. Hey, Craig, you there? Oh, okay. Hey, yeah, sorry, we lost you for a second. Hold on one second. All right, there we go. All right, go ahead, Craig. You're talking about, we lost you for just a second.
Well, that usually happens quite a bit with me. I lose myself. No, I was saying, sorry about that. I think that anytime, my big thing is, and I'm sure there's other people that ask the same question, is like, why didn't the Edmonton Oilers coach Knobloch probably call a power play a penalty? Timeout after the penalties and the power plays. They were on a little bit of a roll there and slow things down. And but that was probably a topic of conversation in a lot of places. But I'm guessing that they're feeling, we may need to use that timeout at the end of the game when we need to get our best players rested up. But Dallas found a way, the same way that they've been doing this for 3 rounds now, 2.5 rounds. And for me, though, it really does go back to the goaltending. I just think that without Jake Ottinger and what he's done since game 1 of the playoffs, being able to hold a team in there when they're not playing as well and things like that, and give them a chance to recover and find a way to draw a couple penalties. So it'll be interesting to see how Edmonton goes about their business tonight.
Craig, outside of that spurt there at the end that obviously gives them the win, that's all that matters. All that preceded that, the way that game played out heavily in Edmonton's favor. What did you take away from that, and what do you apply if you're the Stars and you're looking ahead to game 2, that you look at those first couple of periods in particular and say, we got to be better doing this or that?
Yeah, well, you have to be concerned. I mean, if it's not for them losing their minds a little bit, Edmonton probably, you got a 3-1 lead at, that time of the game. You expect them to seal that off. And so, but again, I think that the topic probably was after the game or the next day on their day off when they go in is, listen, we can't find ways and only play 15 minutes a night against this team and expect to win. And so, we got a bit of a break. I don't think probably the coach was happy with the first 40 minutes of the game. A lot of it was dictated by Edmonton coming in, on the road and obviously being led by their best players. And you expect that when you've got a McDavid and Draisaitl on your team. So, but I believe that the veteran players on this team realized that wasn't a game that you probably should have won. And yeah, we did. We found a way. You move on. We've got to be better. I think what for Dallas, because of the fan base here and the way the fans are here in this building, they've got to get off to a good start in the first 5 or 6 minutes. That didn't happen in the last game, and I think they've got to find ways to build on that momentum coming from a win, regardless of how it happened. But you've got to get the fans into it and keep them into it. And I would say, the other thing I'd say, if you're Edmonton, they're probably talking about we can't take undisciplined penalties. We can't take penalties in the offensive zone. Usually that's taboo anyways. So will Edmonton try to come out and not be as physical? Because that's been part of what they're a little different this year. They've got one of those guys on each line that can come out and bring a physical presence. And they can be those, I think we like to call them shift. I make sure I pronounce the T. Shift disruptors, or, so they do that well. And that's been something they've done. I mean, when you look at these two teams 5-on-5 play, the good news is you got a couple guys that got on the board 5-on-5. Matt Duchene, and so that was important for him to find that, and Tyler Seguin. But I think that if you take a plus minus, in other words, more times you're on the ice, more than not, as a team, the Edmonton Oilers, it started this was like a plus 73. The Dallas Stars were a minus 53. So their 5-on-5 play wasn't where it needs to be. So they've got to find a way to get that back on track.
You mentioned Matt Duchene right there, and he had been in a playoff drought goal-wise. Mentally, what can that do for you going forward when nothing is hitting, and then all of a sudden you get that one in that key moment? Can that maybe light the fire with him a little bit?
Yeah, and all you have to do is look at the smile, and you look at the smile, and I don't know if it's a smile or a sense of relief. And Matt had a great regular season. And so goals have been hard to come by. But again, that's what happens. And a lot of things that happen and that when Marchment, Duchene, and Seguin line was together, I mean, for the last year, it's been the best line. They seem to score every night that they are out there. They were, dominating games. And so when Tyler, had his injury and kind of a little bit of a setback there, things got disrupted a little bit. But I think for Matt, what's happening is I think Matt Duchene does his best work when he can enter, coming into the offensive zone, enter on the right-hand side of the ice. He pulls up, he's on his forehand, everything's in front of him, and he hits people with the puck, whether they're coming late or driving to the net. I think that's what scouting is. And I believe in the first couple of rounds, the teams that they played against, they try to take him away. We haven't seen him making those passes from those areas of the ice. And that's what you're supposed to do, is you try to find what does the player do best? Where does the player want to be on the ice the most? And you take it away and you make them go someplace else. And now you've got a bit of an advantage. And so I think that's what's happened to Duchene. But regardless, I think there is a bit of relief and, just from any way you get a goal. I mean, his original shot, actually, I think it hit Hintz in the back. So, and then it bounced right back to him. So regardless how you do that, but they do know now, they've got to get interior, and they've got a goaltender at the other end of the rink in Skinner that may be questioning how things are going for him.
I know he's skating on the other side, but how much do you enjoy the game of Connor McDavid? And for the layman out there, what is it about him that makes him such a big superstar in this day and age?
Man, there's so many great things to say about him, but very rarely do you see a player come along that can skate with that speed that he has and be able to handle the puck at the same time. And what he does is he scares the hell out of people that are playing against him. And the one guy that can is Miro Heiskanen. So the good news for Dallas is they've got a guy, and Miro's just coming back from a knee injury and things like that. But Miro, I think, is getting closer and closer. When Miro is healthy, he's the one guy that can probably stand up in the neutral zone and get McDavid to turn up when he gets into the offensive zone, because he takes away a lot of his time and space. It's difficult. But then again, then he's got, his wingman and in Leon Draisaitl. So I think they help make each other dangerous. But with McDavid, it's probably the fear that he puts into, especially defensemen. You try to hold your gap on all players, but McDavid can make you look foolish. And Ethel Lindell, who's I would arguably one of the best defensive defensemen in the league, McDavid did that to him in the first period. Essa kind of dropped his eyes. He looked at the puck for just a second, and McDavid got a great scoring chance. But then again, Ottinger was there to make that save. So that combination of speed and the ability to put the puck in net at the same time, and he's a driven player right now. You can see the look on his face. You saw his emotions after Game 7 last year when they didn't win it, and I think he came back this year committed and made sure his teammates were committed that they weren't going to be denied. They were going to find their way back into the finals again this year.
How much pressure do the Oilers feel of, and look, the Stars, they haven't won a cup in a very long time as well, but it's been even longer for any team from Canada and for the Oilers who haven't won since 1990. And they had 5 Stanley Cups. I mean, they were it back when they won that last one, a dynasty. Do they feel that pressure from the fans? I know that the Canadian teams don't like each other. Like there's nobody that's a Toronto fan that's really hoping that Edmonton does it. But wouldn't it, do you think that there's pressure because of that maybe some of the other teams don't feel in the same way?
I think there's pressure anytime you play in Canada, right? Mm-hmm. Because this they believe is their trophy, and so I think for those now again, it's a couple different generations. So I when you mentioned the '90s, there was a guy by the name of Gretzky and Messier and Curry and Coffey. They had some really really good players that are all in the Hall of Fame. So, and McDavid will be in the Hall of Fame too. So it's a different time. The game is played a little bit differently, with the speed and all that kind of stuff, but I think that the fans in Edmonton, Montreal, you get into those kind of markets and you're used to winning or having those eras when you win Stanley Cups, you expect it regardless of what generation you're in. But I think these players that we're talking about now for Edmonton, they put that pressure on themselves. McDavid doesn't want to end an unbelievable career and a Hall of Fame career not having that ring. And so it's important. And he's got plenty of time left, but again, Edmonton is nothing like Toronto, and it's not like Montreal and, all those big markets. It's a smaller town, a smaller city. And so, you've got more, you can't go anywhere. I mean, everybody knows who you are, and it's like playing in a small town, and that's their sport. And that group is their guys. So you feel that way in big cities also, but I think for Edmonton, it's probably a little bit more personal for those guys. So there's no question there's pressure on them, and they know that when you've got the best 2 out of probably 3 or 4 people on the planet on a team, you expect to at least have yourself in the final to give yourself a chance.
Is this Stars team, and last thing before we'll let you go get in the arena, Craig, is this Stars team, is their real strength the fact that, okay, they went through this ridiculous scoring drought towards the end of the regular season. They just weren't scoring goals. Then they get in the playoffs and they just seem to find a way, whether it's all of a sudden scoring on power plays or whatever the game dictates to them, they just kind of respond to that. Is that their real true strength?
Yeah, I could say that, but I think their true strength is their veteran guys. They've been down this road. They've been to the finals before. They've been in 3 Western Conference champions. So this is not new territory to them. They're at that point, and we can kind of relate to that because it took us time here in Dallas. Montreal one was a little different. I mean, I was younger then, but the one in here in Dallas here, we were climbing the mountain and we got a little close, and then we got a little closer, and then we thought we should have made it, but we didn't. We added a couple pieces, and then next thing you know, you got past that hurdle, and now you find yourself in the finals. And we were fortunate. They've done this now a few times. So they're veterans at getting to this point. So I think what's happening with this group now is there's not a lot of panic. When things were going bad at the end of the regular season there, they lost their, 7 or 8. And I was one of the guys that said, you can't limp into the playoffs. You got to be playing your best hockey at that time of the year. It's not like a light switch. You don't just flip a switch and say, okay, our game's ready to go and we're good. We're good to go. Well, somehow they did. Well, and I know how they did. It was on the backs of the goaltender, Ottinger, and the new guy, and Nico Rantanen. Those 2 guys carried them through and allowed them to get their game back in order. And it's still not there. Like I said, Jason Robertson's got to be better. Duchesne and Sagan, Marchman's got to start. All those guys that during the course of the year were, contributing to a lot of wins and putting the puck in the net and being one of those offensive teams that you're like, man, it's hard to compete when you got 2 or 3 lines that can all play the same way. How do you match up? Well, now all of a sudden, it's been a little bit easier for the opponents because those other guys aren't doing what they have been doing for the regular season. So I think at the end of the day, when we talk about Duchesne and Sagan and Ben, and even you can name some Lindell and Heiskanen, they've been around now. They're veterans now. They've been through this. So I think that's kind of what they lead on. I think for the coach, Pete DeBoer, I don't think he has to rattle a lot of cages. I think he knows he's got good veteran leadership in there. And when I talk about Jamie Benn, I think this group is using Jamie as a rallying point. Like Jamie's, his career's winding down, but he's been one of those kind of captains that's given everything he possibly can. And is he playing the way he did when he was 25, 27? No, nobody does. So I do think that there's a lot of that they want to get a championship for their captain.
Craig Ludwig, thank you so much for joining us. Craig, enjoy the series, enjoy the game. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, thanks, guys. Anytime.
Craig Ludwig with us, and I really